Failure is a part of your process, and the faster that you learn to embrace failure, the better designer and professional you will become. Yo, what is good, y'all? My name is Lizzie. I'm a self-taught UX designer. I am approaching my 5-month mark along my journey. The point of my videos is to document my self-taught experience as candidly as possible to serve as a resource for anyone interested. This video is going to be all about self-reflection of my pre and post processes of my first ever UX design interview with a company called HubSpot for the rotational program. And within a few seconds, you're going to see a quick scenario change of me in my car continuing this conversation because the OG intro video didn't make it to my laptop. So here it is. In this series of videos, you're going to see the emotional roller coaster that was my experience prepping for my first ever UX interview, and then also some afterthoughts that I had after quote unquote feeling like I bombed the interview. Now the second portion of this video is going to be back to me in this car setting, going through the actionable steps that I took right after my first interview in order to further develop my interviewing skill set so that I am well prepared for the next time that I have the opportunity to interview for a UX position. And I am sharing these actionable steps with you so that you can take it and bring it into your own life to develop your own interviewing skill sets. Failure is a part of the learning curve, but it doesn't mean that you have to fail in every single way in order to become a better designer. You could absolutely take note from other people's failures and just not take that same track to failing. Let's learn, let's fail, but let's learn from our failures. Without further ado, here's the vlogs. It's 11:30 p.m. on Wednesday, and I had a very, very busy day. I spoke with one of my friends that is a recruiter at HubSpot, and although he is not in the department of the UX program, I thought it would be valuable to chat with him about what makes a good candidate for HubSpot. He talked about this acronym called HEART. It's a guiding star for me for figuring out how to prepare for this meeting, or this interview rather. To be honest, this first screening interview is making me nervous, and I know what I need to do, but have not been interviewed in the past 3 years since my first job, so I'm hella nervous. Fuck. Alright, I'm gonna go to bed. Thanks for listening. Okay, so today is Thursday. It's my last full day to prepare for the interview, which I am planning to do tomorrow morning. I just got off the phone with my friend who works at HubSpot. She works in the sales hub. The reason why I reached out to her is just to get a better sense of what HubSpot is like in terms of the company culture. I feel very anxious about the entire process, to be honest. I think I'm starting to self-doubt myself. Speaking with my friend definitely gave me a lot more direction of how to continue my research and prepare my questions. I just need to continue to prepare and just reciting my responses back in an organic way so that I don't sound robotic. Yeah, all these things. Oh, fuck. Today is technically Friday, but it's Thursday in my head because it's 1 a.m. on Friday. This entire day I have been prepping for my interview tomorrow. I feel a lot more confident than when I started this morning, but do I feel entirely confident? Hell no. I think it's because I really do care about this program. I think it would be incredible opportunity to grow my UX skills here. I am going to study for maybe 20 more minutes and then get some rest. Just finished my responses. Wow. The answers to my questions were okay. I'm not entirely confident about them, but hey, I only had 60 seconds to review the questions and then 90 seconds to respond. I'm really banking on the hiring manager seeing that I was demonstrating my design thinking. Now I'm like, maybe I could have done better. I know that I could have done better. So we'll see what happens. All right, the lightings can be sort of trash, but just really quickly wanted to document that it is around 10 p.m. same day of the interview, and I think I recorded earlier that I was feeling okay about how my interview went, but now as the day went on, I think I am progressively doubting myself, and I'm not sure if it's the imposter syndrome setting in or if I've just been thinking more about the way in which I could have responded better. It's just part of the process. So, as you can see, I was very anxious leading up to the interview, and then after my interview I felt very lukewarm about my performance, and then shortly after, just a few hours after, I was filled with imposter syndrome, with self-doubt, and really kicking myself hard in the gut because I didn't meet my own expectations of how I wanted to perform in that interview. Before I talk about my actionable steps that I took to recuperate from feeling so shitty about myself and turning that negative energy into productive energy, I do want to really double down on how normal it is to feel this wave of emotions throughout an interviewing process, especially if you are a new UX designer and you are still new to selling yourself in the interviewing process, especially if you're coming from a different industry background, so a non-design background, where you have to think a little bit differently about how you're tailoring your responses so that you are being able to leverage your strengths and experience from a non-design background. So it's okay to feel self-doubt, it's okay to feel imposter syndrome, but it's not okay to let yourself wallow in these negative emotions. My philosophy in life is that you should just let your feelings flow, but don't let them be an excuse for you to be stagnant in your life. Use them as the reason for you to add momentum to your personal growth. I like to think about things logically, so I once read up on this chart that explains the frustrations that I felt. So if you can just imagine a graph, y-axis here, x-axis here, there's a line that represents the expectations that I have of myself to perform in an interview. Now there's another line that is underneath it that represents the skill sets that I have currently. Now there is a gap in between these two lines because the gap represents the expectations that I have of my UX interviewing skills with where my UX interviewing skills are currently at. And so acknowledging this gap is important because it allows for self-awareness of where I am at with my interviewing skills and where I want my interviewing skills to be at. So the actionable steps that I took to close this gap was to look towards YouTube videos. I want to focus on one specific video that I felt was the guiding principle in how I feel so confident now in my interviewing skills. I will be specifically listing this video that I'm referring to in the description box for your reference, but essentially it talks about preparing this metaphorical toolbox that you always should have in your back pocket, ready to whip out in any interview. Within this toolbox, you should have prepared at least 10 of your top pivotal moments in your career that you can use to answer essentially any question that a hiring manager will throw at you. So this toolbox has 10 of your top pivotal career moments, right? So let's define that. What does that even mean? So anything from a time in which you received negative feedback and turned that into a positive, a time when you worked with a team and had to provide constructive feedback to a teammate, a time when you took a creative approach to solving a problem. These are just some examples. Now, when you do identify these pivotal moments in your career, I highly recommend that you write them out with the STAR method, which, if you're not familiar with what it is, it's a great way for you to structurally storytell an example. So it's an acronym. STAR stands for situation, T stands for task, A stands for actionable steps, and R stands for results yielded with metrics. After I ran through 10 of my top pivotal moments and wrote out the STAR method, I became super confident with my interviewing skills, because essentially all I have to do now is to just keep practicing. The other super beneficial thing that comes from doing this exercise is that you spend a lot of time with yourself and your experiences that shape you into the person and professional that you are today. And so what it does is it helps you build support and data to back up who you are as a professional. So for me, I am an equity UX designer focusing on accessibility and creating equitable opportunities. And so how I'm able to make this a strong statement rather than an empty statement is by backing it with the myriad of experiences that I have of me demonstrating my commitment to creating equitable opportunities and working through situations where I had to take a more mindful approach about accessibility. So these were the actionable steps that I took after my interview, where I felt very down and shitty, to lift myself up and to build upon myself. Because again, failure is a part of your process, and the faster that you learn to embrace failure as a part of your process, the better designer and professional you will become. Please do take a moment to run through this workshop and self-reflection to not only build upon your interviewing skills, but just to validate all of the professional experiences that you do have, especially if you are someone like me who is pivoting into UX design from a non-design background. Sometimes it might feel like you are starting from scratch, that you don't have any experience or skill sets to leverage that will help you break into UX, but that is just not true. No matter if you've had a few years of professional experience after you've graduated college, or maybe you've worked a service job as a part-time waitress or a waiter, all of the experiences that you've had in your life is valid. It's just up to you to identify what those experiences are so that you can work on developing that into your story of how it can translate into UX design. And lastly, please give yourself a lot of grace, a lot of kindness, and a lot of patience throughout this process, because you and I both know that breaking into UX right now is a fucking struggle. Speaking of struggling, if you haven't yet joined my UX Design Struggle Bus Discord server, the link is in the description box below. It's a place where I connect new UX designers that come from my YouTube channel to exchange resources, to chat about our daily struggles of becoming a UX designer. It's a very supportive space. I am also in the process of building out some really big structural changes to the server to increase engagement. I would love to have you join. See you there. Please also continue to leave me some virtual love on this video in some form. I hella appreciate it. Please feel free to connect with me on Instagram and Clubhouse. If you have DM'd me through Instagram, I am working through my messages, so please be patient with me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all on my next videos. Later!